Hello everyone, my name is Asyrafchazz and welcome back to yet another One Piece card game video. So we are down to our last color that we have not talked about in OP-02, and it is black, all about the Marines, a lot of strong Marine cards in this particular color, as well as the event cards that I'm excited to talk about in this video. If you want to see my kind of breakdown on every single card of all of the other colors, you can check out all the videos on the channel itself. This Friday on November 4th, I will try my best to put up an opening of OP-02, my first box opening for OP-02, provided I can get my hands on the product because there's some allocation issues in Singapore right now. But I will try my best to get the first two box openings for sure in due time. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like and subscribing if you want to keep up to date with more One Piece card game content. Now, without further ado, let's talk about the last color that we've now talked about, coming from OP-02, the Paramount War, which is black itself. Alright, so now we are down to the last color, and it is black. So we've talked about these two leaders, so we're going to jump straight into Smoker. So Smoker is our dedicated black leader for this set, 5000 power with 5 life, part of the Marines, and his ability is Dawn 1, activate main once per turn, give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost during this turn. Then if there is a character with a cost of 0, this character gains plus 1000 power. So best case scenario is Smoker turns into a 7000 power leader if your opponent has anything that costs 0 on their side of the field, and there you go. I think there's a specific way to play Smoker, and there's a specific way to play like the Sakazuki Akainu from the starter deck. So both leaders have equally decent effects. So you can kind of pick and choose, and you can kind of adjust your deck in the way that you want to play it. So I think that's really cool for black. Next up, we have Isuka, 3 cost 4000 power with a slasher attribute with counter 1000, and her ability is Dawn 1 once per turn. When this character battles and KOs your opponent characters, set this character as active. So almost similar to a Basil Hawkins type card, but you have to actually KO your opponent's character for it to be able to be set as active. Decent card, I think. If there's a situation where you need a 3 cost 4000 power or potentially a 5000 power with Dawn 1 and attacking into your opponent's rested characters, then this card is good. It reminds me of like maybe an Okiku of like Nico Robin, and this kind of effect could be integral to the metagame. So we have to kind of wait and see where Isuka lands in the current metagame. Next up, we have Onigumo, a 5 cost 6000 power with a slasher attribute with counter 1000, part of the Marines, and this card's effect is if there is a character with a cost of 0, this character gains Banish. If you guys don't know what that Banish is, it's when it deals damage to the life is put into the trash without activating its trigger. So seems like this card wants, similar to like Smoker, wants cards to have 0 cost on your opponent's side of the field for the effect to be activated. But at 5 cost 6000 power, it's not bad. So let's move on. Next up, we got our first super rare for black, which is Kuzan, a 4 cost 5000 power character with special attribute, part of the Marines, and his ability is on play, draw 1 card immediately, very good. And when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 cost during this turn, without even like Dawn -1. I love this card so much. This is integral for black. If you're playing any black card, black leader, you need a playset of this card. Unfortunately, I think it's just too good not to include, similar to like Kizaru and even Akainu. And the fact that it draws a card on play, black needs card draw. Black needs cards to replace itself because you're gonna have a lot of effects that need you to discard cards from your hand. So Kuzan definitely plays into that and mitigates that card loss a little bit. Next, we got Komile, a 1 cost 3000 power slasher attribute with counter 1000 vanilla. So nothing much to say about this card, so let's move on. Next up, we got Kobe, a 3 cost 4000 power with the striker attribute with counter 1000, part of the Marines, and his ability is on play. You may trash 1 card from your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So a slightly better version than the starter deck version. You know, it's actually quite good. You know, dropping Kobe down, discarding a card from your hand, destroying something that's 3 or less. I think this is gonna be, you know, that maybe a 4-off in the future, especially because it's a strong effect. So there you go. Next up, we have Sakazuki himself, 6 cost, 7000 power with the special attribute, part of the Marines, and his abilities on play. You may trash 1 card from your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. I have seen a lot of black decks being tested on YouTube, on streams of people playing it, and Sakazuki, every time he drops down and gets rid of something, it's just a really good trade. You're expanding your board, you're discarding a card, yes, that's for sure, but you are getting rid of a threat or a blocker on your opponent's side of the field, and this card is really quite good. And with all the cost manipulation things that black has, you can even get rid of a potentially strong card as well. Next up, we have Django, 2 cost, 3000 power, the slasher attribute with counter 1000, part of the Marines, and if you have full body, this character cannot be KO'd in battle. Anything that requires another character to be on the field, I don't really like as much because it's quite situational. So I'm not really feeling Django as much, unfortunately, so let's move on. Next up, we have Strawberry, which is a 4 cost, 5000 power character with the slasher attribute, part of the Marines, and his ability is when attacking, if there is a character with a cost of 0, your opponent cannot activate blocker of any character with a cost of 5 or less during this battle. So once again, another card carrying about that cost being 0 effect, similar to what we've seen before, and the fact that you cannot block this card with anything that costs 5 or less is automatically really good. So yeah, maybe this will see some play, but to get that consistent, like something to be 0 cost, it's gonna be quite difficult, especially when you're not knowing what your opponent will play out on the field. So situational, yes, but if it happens to take into effect, then this card becomes really quite decent. Next up, we got Smoker, a 3 cost, 4000 power, the special attribute with counter 1000, part of the Marines, and his abilities, this character cannot be KO'd by effects, so nothing new for Smoker there. And when attacking, if there is a character with a cost of 0, this character gains plus 2000 power during this battle. So once again, another situational card that requires something to be at 0 cost. Maybe works well with the Smoker leader, where you can attach 1 Dawn and reduce something by 1, so you just affect like a searcher or 1 cost blocker, and then everything has that extra ability, such as like plus 2000 against banish. So Smoker specific cards could be quite decent in OP-02 moving forward. Next up, we got Sengoku, a 2 cost, 3000 power with the wisdom attribute with counter 2000. So black definitely will want to run a certain number of Sengoku for sure. And Dawn 1, when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2 cost during this turn. So a decent card effect for sure. I think a decent enough card to warrant some play, but the plus 2000 would be why you would want to run this in your deck. And the card artwork is actually really quite nice. So there you go. Next up, we got Sentomaru, a really cool Sentomaru artwork, by the way. A 2 cost, 3000 power with a slasher attribute with counter 1000, with the triggered ability of play this card. Yep, nothing to write home about. This is your 2 cost, 3000 vanilla with the triggered ability. Then again, now that this card doesn't have like the text box, I think it's really good that it looks like this almost full like aspect of a card. I quite like it. Next up, we got Tashigi, 3 cost, 5000 power with the slasher attribute with no counter, sorry. Dawn 1, when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 3 cost during this turn. So I think this card is going to be quite useful. The fact that it's 3 cost and 5000 powered character card, of course, with no counter is going to be a detriment right there. But the fact that it can give one of your opponent's characters minus 3 cost could be quite useful in some decks for black moving forward as well. So there you go. Next, we got the ultimate waifu, Suru, looking all peaceful as hell. 1 cost, 0 powered character with the wisdom attribute, but with counter 2000. And her ability is on play, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2 cost during this turn. So I don't know, but it's similar to like how I picture Otama, but just in a different form. I think the black decks will definitely want to run 4 of Suru, and will definitely use Suru when you need that minus 2 cost on something. So definitely a play card for sure. Next, we got Doberman, 2 cost, 4000 power with the striker attribute with counter 1000. This is a vanilla, so let's just move on. So let's move on to Corazon himself, 2 cost, 2000 power with the special attribute with counter 1000 with blocker. And I think this is going to be definitely a card that's going to be seeing play because it's a 2-cost 2000 power blocker, and the fact that it has counter 1000 as well, and the fact that it has a box stopper as well. I think black decks will definitely want 4 of Corazon to be including in their black decks moving forward. Next up, we got Jaguar de Sol, RIP, Jaguar de Sol, 4-cost 6000 power with the striker attribute with counter 1000. This is your 4-cost 6000 power vanilla. Hopefully he makes his way back in any future lobby set, maybe. My girl Robin needs it. Anyway, this is Hina, 5-cost 6000 power with the special attribute, part of with counter 1000, part of the Marines, and Hina has blocker, and her ability is on block. Select up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less. The selected character cannot attack during this turn. So very good card, I think. Very strong blocker for sure, and the fact that the stats are not that bad as well, I think this card will definitely see some play. I think it's a strong 5-cost, drop it down, you know, similar to like Queen, and the fact that you can prevent more attacks with Hina, very, very good. And it's like, you know, her using her Devil Fruit to like jail up some of the other characters, which I think is quite on point for Hina, for sure. And next up, we got Full Body, a 2-cost 3000 power to striker attribute with counter 1000, and his ability is when attacking, if you have Django, this card gains 3000 power during this battle. So in a situation where you have Django, yeah, this card would be quite good, but any situational cards that need 2 different cards to make it work, I usually tend to rate it a bit lower. I mean, we've seen like even Shachi and Penguin seeing less and less play in the metagame, moving towards the end of the OP-01 metagame. So Full Body, not really feeling it. So let's move on. Next, we got Belmare. 1-cost 1000 power, the range attribute with counter 1000, and her ability is activate main. You may rest this character, give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost during this turn, then up to one of your leader or character gains plus 1000 power during this turn. I think Belmare is going to have a really useful effect for sure. I think giving something -1 and buffing one of your things by 1000 is quite useful. Pretend like she's a stage card that takes a slot on this side of the field, and you're good to go, right? There you go. Also hashtag waifu tags. Next, we got Helmeppo, a 3-cost 3000 power with the slasher attribute, part of the Marines with counter 1000, and his ability is when attacking, give up to one of your opponents a -2 cost during this turn. Then if there is a character with a cost of 0, this character gains plus 2000 power during this turn, and the triggered ability is to play this card. So I think this is fulfilling that 3-cost triggered card similar to like Who's Who from purple. Not really sure if it's really good, but the fact that it gives -2 when attacking without having putting Dawn onto him, and then if it fulfills that cost of 0 trait right there, it gets a boost for 2000. So situational, yes, but could be quite useful in the future. Alright, next up we got Borsalino, one of the stronger blockers definitely for black. 4-cost 5000 power, the special attribute, part of the Marines, and on your opponent's turn, this character gains plus 1000 power and cannot be KO'd by effects, meaning you can't target it with a jet pistol or any attacks, or any effects. You can only destroy it via combat. And it has blocker. So Borsalino, if you're playing black, definitely have a playset of him. He also has counter 1000, so obviously going to be a very, very good card for sure. Next up, we got Monkey D. Garb with a really menacing artwork right there. 2-cost 3000 power with a striker attribute with counter 2000, so black decks might potentially play him as well. Dawn 2, when attacking, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So if you are playing Smoko or even like Sakazuki and have something that costs 0, Monkey D. Garb can definitely come in and clear some of your 0-cost characters on your opponent's side of the field. If in case you need additional ways of removal, Garb is here to fill up that slot. Other than that, it's still a 2000 counter card that has some use. So I think Garb will definitely make his way into some of the decks moving forward. Next up, we got Yamakaji, 3-cost 5000 power, the slasher attribute with counter 1000. This is your vanilla, so let's move on. Alright, now we're going into the event cards for black, and some of them are really quite strong, such as Ice Age, a 1-cost event card that says main, give up to one of your opponent characters a -5 cost during this turn. There's so much things you can do with like -5 cost. And the fact that it only costs 1, this is a strong event card for black for sure. And the trigger ability is KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. It's just extra gravy. Now I can see a lot of things working well with Ice Age. Like you can Ice Age a Eustace Kid from a 8 cost to a 3 cost and then drop like your Sakazuki character card and then just KO it. So Ice Age definitely will see some play, provided that we have enough slots in the deck to include this card in. Next up, we got Yasakani Sacred Jewel. This is an effect by Borsalino himself. A 1-cost event card with counter. You may trash 1 card from your hand. Select up to one of your characters. The selected character cannot be KO'd during this battle. So in case you need to save one of your threats, this card may come in handy. Though I don't think that it's actually that strong, unless you know you really want to save your characters. Then its triggered ability is KO up to one of your opponent's stage card with a cost of 3 or less. So that trigger ability, interesting, very interesting. This is the first card we see that directly affects other people's stage cards, and yeah, I think this might be an interesting card to include in case some problematic stages show up, such as Whitebeard's Moby Dick. There you go. Maybe this is a I think this is a meta dependent card. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a meta dependent card. If you feel like stage cards are too strong, then this card will definitely be useful to have in the deck for sure. But you need to hit it off trigger, so it's also up like luck dependent. Next, we got Meteor Volcano, 2-cost event card with main, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less, and the trigger ability is draw 2 cards and trash 1 card from your hand. So the main ability can work really well with the Ice Age that we saw beforehand. So just reducing something by 5 or reducing something by a certain number according to all your other black cards effect, and then you use this to just get rid of it. I think it's quite good. It's a straight removal, so there you go. And last but not least, it's our secret rare in black. It is none other than Kuzan himself, a 10-cost, 10,000 powered character with a special attribute, part of the former Navy. And on your turn, give all of your opponent's characters -5 cost. Now, this is a static effect that happens when Kuzan is on the field, so all your opponent's characters get -5 cost. But on play, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with cost of 0. So once again, you can use this to get rid of like Queens, a blocker, a lot of strong threats that you can just get rid just by dropping down Kuzan. So there you go. This is your secret rare. I've talked about him in depth in another video. I think it's a really strong card. His alternate art looks sick, and you know, that's pretty awesome as well. And there you go, the last color of OP-02, which is black. Man, I talked about every single card from this set in a video, and I'm really glad that it's done. What are your favorite cards from OP-02? Let me know. I think some of the secret rares are really quite strong. I think Kuzan will definitely see some play in the future meta game. A lot of strong black cards and strong black events. All the Admirals I really love, and I'm excited to play with them moving forward. But if you enjoyed this video, I will try my best to open up a box or 2 of OP-02 coming this Friday on November 4th, so do keep a lookout for that. Other than that, I will try my best to do a live opening of OP-02, provided I can get my product in time, given that there's some allocation issues coming in Singapore right now. But fingers crossed, we will get everything that we need. Other than that, thank you so much for watching this video. Please consider giving a like if you enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm excited for OP-02's release. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.